Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Learning at Home webinar series. I am back to share a new webinar with you on coding. Today, we'll be focusing on web-based programs and apps to support coding with a device. I'm excited to have our special guest speaker here with us today, as she is my sister. Her name is Emily Johb. We don't get to collaborate on things very often, so we are both stoked to be here to share our experiences with you today. So my name is Naomi Hartle, and I'm a former educator. I taught in Saskatchewan, Canada. That's where we are both from. I just currently live in America. So I taught multiple subject areas. I've taught math, science, physical education, health education, career education. I even taught home economics at one point. And with all my, teaching experience, all the different subject areas, I did teach grades 3 through 12. As I said before, I'm now living in America, and I am the STEM and science subject matter expert for schools specialty. So I don't know if you think we look alike, but that top photo there is my sister and our amazing guest speaker today. Her name is Emily Johb. Emily, I'm going to pass it over to you to share a little bit more on your experience.
Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be a part of this webinar today and share a little bit about my experience with coding. As Naomi said, my name is Emily Johb. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Ecole Traditions Elementary School in Warman, Saskatchewan, Canada. I've been teaching for the past 8 years at various levels of elementary, but it only been the past couple years that I have started to really dive into coding with my students.
Awesome. So we're excited to have you today, Emily, and let's start looking at some different learning objectives to see what we're going to focus on. So first thing first, what are we going to learn throughout this webinar? When you leave this webinar, what should you know? Well, we're going to kind of try and bust some myths going on. We're going to look at some common misconceptions. We're going to discuss some benefits for coding and why it's needed for students to learn at all different age levels. And then we're going to review and get into some actual programs and apps that you as educators or parents can use to teach your students how to code in fun and meaningful ways. So Emily and I wanted to start off this webinar with a question, just to get you thinking. Why is teaching students to code not as prevalent in schools as writing, moving, and observing? So let's just take about 15 seconds to think on this. You can either pause it right here. You can, hold off, maybe write an answer down on a piece of paper, your choice. But as they're thinking here, Emily, let's kind of dive in and, have you share some of your thoughts as to why you think coding isn't as prevalent in schools.
Well, Naomi, I believe that writing, moving, and observing are foundational skills that are taught to our children as they grow up. For our children to be prepared for the jobs of today and the unknown ones of tomorrow, coding skills need to become the fundamental skills that are taught to our children at a young age.
Exactly. So we want you to remember a couple things. Learning to write is not just for writers. Learning to move is not just for athletes. And learning to observe is not just for scientists. So we don't just teach observation to students who are going to be scientists in the future. Our young children don't know what they want to be in the future. So therefore, learning to code is not just for computer scientists. We believe every child should learn to code at a young age. So let's discuss some common misconceptions. And we wanted to discuss these because we hear them all the time about coding in schools and educational settings. And we kind of want to, bust some of these myths. So the first one that we have is children only need to learn how to code if they're becoming engineers or scientists. So Emily, what do you think about that?
Well, I can definitely understand why this is a misconception. As depending on the career paths our students take, some may or may not need to use coding in their day-to-day life. But it is important to remember that coding isn't just about learning how to code. It is about the skills that they learn through coding. It develops 21st century skills such as logic, problem solving, and creativity. And there's a lot more skills that they do learn as well.
Right, which we'll definitely touch on a little bit later in the webinar when we talk about some of those programs. Exactly. So another common misconception is, that we hear from educators is, I need to be the expert in everything that I teach. So Emily, why do you think, do you think you need to be an expert in everything that you teach?
Not at all. I tell my students every day that I'm not an expert in coding and that we're going to learn it together. Half the time they are teaching me how to do the problems that they learn. My students, it's important that my students don't see me as an expert and that they also see me as a learner as well.
Right. And I think it's just beneficial for them to see you be vulnerable with them and for them to see that this is something you're learning too. Coding is relatively new for, well, our students and our educators in the education space. So I think it's important for kids to see that you're trying something new. Absolutely. All right. And then the final one that we hear a lot is, well, I don't know how to use a computer or a tablet or an iPad or a smartphone or any technology that, for that matter of fact. Therefore, I can't teach it. Emily, what
Well,
do you think?
well, technology is not going anywhere. There are courses you can take, or you can find a colleague who can show you. I have done this many times. Heck, I even reached out to Naomi this week to help her or ask her for help on Teams, Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, and I think I Googled the answer for you.
Yes, you did.
But it just goes to show that there's many avenues that we can get access to. You don't have to know how to use a computer or a specific device, but eventually it is something that you will want to learn. One thing I like to point out is that, or at least one thing that I hear a lot from people is that, well, the kids will figure it out. They know technology. They're born with it. They're born into it. The kids know how to use it. And I kind of like to argue that point a little bit too, because just because they've grown up with technology doesn't mean our students know how to be digitally literate, right? They still need to learn how to use the devices as far as learning goes and when to use them appropriately. Do they know how to like whip out a phone and start going through it and play games? Yeah, they definitely know how to do that. So for those that are uncomfortable with those devices, I mean, you can go to your students. Don't expect them to know how to use it appropriately. There's many times when I was teaching back 5 years ago, and I had to have conversations about appropriate etiquette on social media and what that looked like. So there's just a lot of conversations you can have with students, but you could definitely go to them for how do I use this, and can you support me through this process? I think it also helps that if you show them that you're being a little bit vulnerable with specific things, I think they'll respect you a little bit more. I know my students did. All right, so we've talked a little bit about the misconceptions. Let's keep going. So let's look at some benefits. There are obviously many benefits to coding, some of which I've already mentioned before. But Emily's just going to quickly reiterate some of these points and talk about some things that she feels from her experience with benefits from coding, what she's seen with her students.
Yeah, like Naomi said, I have seen a lot of benefits to coding with my students. My students are 21st century learners, so they learn 21st century skills. Coding teaches things like logic, problem solving, critical thinking, as you can see on the screen, communication, creativity, collaboration, perseverance, and resilience. Coding supports our students, and our children are so creative, so it allows them to think outside the box. Our children are able to tackle problems and make mistakes along the way, and also work through their frustrations. We teach them that failing is not a bad thing, and through coding that making mistakes lead to success. They get a chance to study what's not working, why it's not working, and what can be done to improve it, and come up with a solution to make it work. They also learn how to break down problems into smaller problems and that are easier to understand and solve. Coding isn't going anywhere. It is our present and our future. Our students need to understand it to function in this new world. Learning how to code is much like learning a new language. It opens the doors for our students to create more creative projects and develop problem-solving skills. Giving students the chance to learn the logic and patterns of coding is a great way to introduce STEM and STEAM skills and help them to develop an interest in technology.
Right. So lots of key benefits for our students when learning how to code. All right. So the moment you've all been waiting for, we're going to dive into some web-based and app programs to support coding.
Naomi, before we introduce our first program, let's quickly explain what web-based means.
Yes, good idea. So web-based, basically what web-based means is it's software you can use over the internet with a web browser. You don't have to install anything, download any software, or worry about upgrades. And then I guess we can talk about what apps are too. You know, apps can be found where you could download from your app store, or if you're an Android user, a Google Play Store, or if you're on like a Chromebook of some sort, you can go into I believe it's their apps and extensions. You can go into that through the Chrome browser, and you can download specific apps that way. So just different applications that you can put onto those devices. All right, so the first one we're going to look at is called code.org. Emily has a little bit of experience with this one, so she's going to kind of dive into it a little bit further. But before she does that, when we were doing some research, or when I was doing some research on code.org, it says that you don't have to be a software developer to teach computer science. So from the experts, they're telling you that you don't have to be an expert in order to teach it. So here we go. Some information about code.org.
And I definitely was not an expert teaching coding. So that's just an example. Okay, so code.org is a program that teaches computer science to all grade levels. It has a course catalog that is sectioned, as you can see on the screen, from kindergarten to grade 5, grade 6 to grade 12, and then also one from kindergarten to grade 12. Code.org has different courses, and each course is sequenced into lessons that your students are able to follow. At the beginning of some of the lessons, there are video tutorials for the students to follow. There are also some unplugged activities, so you do not need a device, which is a really neat part of the program. Students are also able to work at their own pace. When I used code.org, it was very easy for me as it was all laid out. All I had to do was pick a course, sign up my class, and then I could track my students' progress. And as you can see on the screen, that's how I could track my students' progress with one of the courses. So it shows the numbers at the top, which is the lessons, and then the green says that they have completed it. And if you see half, that means that they're still going through the steps. Where it says lessons, that's where my students' names would be. We just created a box and put it over top of them for privacy. For the students to get into code.org, it's very easy. So there are different ways that they can log in. You can choose what best works for you. So students can log in using a picture, a word code, and that's how I had my students log in, or they can create a personal account.
Awesome. All right, so moving on to the next slide here. So as you can see from the image on the screen, code.org has multiple different courses and programs to choose from to use with your students and children. And it really kind of just is based off of what level they're at and where you want to take them and where they want to go. So the first one here, Computer Science Fundamentals, is for, this one right here, is for kindergarten through to 5th grade. With this program, it's really for students new to computer science. It offers a grade-appropriate entry point and structured ramp-up of concepts. The next one we're looking at is the Computer Science Fundamentals, the Express course. And this is for ages 9 through 18, which I believe is about grades 3 or 4 through 12. So this is a lightweight option that can be integrated as a supplemental resource into any existing technology or programming classes that are currently being done. Any after-school programs, or even currently in the at-home climate that we're in, it can be done at home. This course covers all the core concepts from that elementary school curriculum Computer Science Fundamentals course that I talked about here, but basically is just an accelerated pace designed for older students. Then they have the Computer Science Discoveries course. This is more for your middle school program, and it's grades 6 through 10. This one is an introductory to computer science course that empowers students to create authentic artifacts and engage with computer science as a medium for creativity, communication, problem solving, and fun. And then finally here, the Computer Science Principles, grades 9 through 12. This is more of that higher level introductory course that introduces the foundational concepts of computer science, also while challenging them to explore how computing and technology can impact the world. There's also one course that is not on the screen that would fit right into this little spot right here, and this is for pre-readers. So those students who can't really read yet. I really think this one's a cute one because basically it combines the best of the kindergarten and first grade courses, and it's good for ages 4 through 8.
So here's a little bit of more information on code.org. So depending on the course that you are using, the coding language may change. As you can see, it could be JavaScript with either block or text or even HTML and CSS. Code.org is available on multiple different devices. And as an educator, I really appreciated that. But not all devices are compatible with all the programs. You will need a desktop or a laptop computer with a mouse or touchpad and keyboard for the middle and high school level courses, which are CS Discoveries and CS Principles. iPad or tablets, even if they have a keyboard attachment, are not supported. So that's very important to remember. All other content, such as K-5 courses, the Computer Science Fundamentals, and Hour of Code activities, are compatible on iPads and Chromebooks, in addition to all other laptop and desktop computers.
Awesome. So let's look at that second program that we have here. This one is called Swift Playground, and this is a development environment for Swift created by Apple Incorporated. So with Swift Playground, this one requires really no coding knowledge whatsoever and allows you to learn the basic fundamentals of writing code, or allows you to students or children to learn those basic fundamentals. It's a free program with lessons built in. Students are able to guide this little character called Byte around to complete tasks in a 3D world. Through the tasks and puzzles, the students are able to learn the basic concepts of what a program really is all about. It is built for your Mac computer and your iPad. And actually, if you were to click on that link that I showed you on that last screen, it would take you to a web page that basically gives you download for Mac, download for iPad. It's very simple. And it allows you to move seamlessly between your Mac and your iPad. If you started on your Mac, if you have your iCloud set up, you can actually go onto your iPad, sign in that way, and get your program as well. So you can kind of, like I said, it seamlessly works between the both of them. And then the whole time you are learning Swift, which is a powerful programming language created by Apple. So before with code.org, we talked about JavaScript, HTML, CSS. This one, they're specifically focusing on Swift and that programming language that Apple created. And it's really used by professionals to build many of today's most popular apps.
Swift Playground was actually introduced to me by my principal. He has been using Swift Playground to teach coding to the younger classes at my school. After he introduced it to me, I've actually downloaded it onto my iPad and have been testing it out. From what I've been hearing from my principal and the students, the app is just really engaging. They enjoy moving Byte around to accomplish the tasks that are given and to complete the puzzles. And that if you look at the screen, it's just very visually appealing with the 3D world that it provides.
Yeah, it looks pretty fun. I think this is a little bit right here, huh? Trying to catch a jewel.
Okay, so let's dive into a few more details just that we shared previously on the slides before. So who is this program good for? We would say that it's really good for upper elementary and middle school ages. It depends on their understanding of coding and their current knowledge.
Right, and I just want to jump in here too, because I know you said that your principal did it with the lower elementary kiddos. So again, we're saying based on what the research that we've done, we're saying upper elementary, but again, as Emily said, it depends on their understanding and current knowledge of coding. Since Emily's school and her principal has been doing a lot of work with them, those lower elementary kids are able to use Swift Playground. So just want to jump in and share that.
Yeah, he usually starts Swift Playgrounds with the grade 3s. So that's
okay. Yeah, so that is
about 8. Yeah. What coding and program language are students learning? They're learning Swift. which is a powerful programming language created by Apple and used by the pros to build today's most popular apps. And then what devices are compatible with this program? They're available on Mac and iPads since it is an Apple product.
All right, so the next one, the third program that we're getting into is called Tinker. And according to the Tinker website, it says, Tinker fuels creativity in thousands of schools and powers the imagination of 60 million kids worldwide. With 40 plus award-winning block and text-based courses and over 3,700 learning modules, there's a learning path for every kid, no matter their age or level. So those are some high standards right there. So Tinker offers courses for ages 5 through 7, courses for 8 through 13, and then another course that is 14 and older. The courses are set up to be self-guided, basically where students can learn at their own pace. This would be a cool one, especially for at home too, since it is self-guided. Kids can kind of work at, like we said, at their own pace through their own programming. The course also provides built-in tutorials to help students. So if they're struggling or if they need some support, those tutorials are there. The website also provides how their courses use scope and sequence and standards for educators. So if you're concerned about having a program that is linked to some specific standards, this is definitely one you want to look at. When you want to assign a course to your class, the course will tell you what device you can access it through. You can sign in 3 different ways as a teacher, student, or parent. You can go check it out right now if you wanted to. This app is available for iPads and features word-free code blocks, pictures, and friendly voiceovers. The stories, games, puzzles, and projects in this course engage students in developing computational skills from our computer science standards that we have in America here. And then also they are also linked to our Common Core state standards for mathematics and English language arts. So definitely something to think about. The other thing we want to share is if you actually go on their website right now, there's a little, I think it's a purple banner at the top of the screen, and it'll say that you have free access to premium coding courses during school closures. This program, which we didn't mention at the beginning, is a paid program, but right now with school closures and things happening, they are giving their premium access to teachers currently. There is a little free section. You get a limited version of it, but right now you can get that premium. So go check it out. It's pretty cool so far.
Okay, so my teaching partner, Dave, has been diving a little bit deeper into Tinker and is wanting to use it with his group of students. So we just asked him to share his thoughts on the program, and this is what Dave says. I believe that coding is becoming an essential skill for students. It will soon be seen in the same light as reading and math. Research shows that the younger you are, the easier it is to learn a new language. Coding is essentially the language of the future, so it is best that students begin to learn it from a young age. Of all the coding apps I've explored, Tinker was the best reviewed and seems to be the most engaging. I hope to explore it with my students and make it a regular part of my curriculum.
Awesome. So we wanted to share that just with another educator's experience. So since we have not used Tinker ourselves, we wanted to just share Dave's perspective on what he's kind of. So let's dive into a few more details with Tinker. So who is the program good for? Ages, like I said before, 5 through 7, 8 through 13, and 14 and older. So basically ages 5 and up. What coding or programming language are students using right now? Well, really, it's about the real world coding with JavaScript, Python web development with HTML and CSS. And then there's also voice instructions for kids where they can use their voice to instruct the different characters as well as the drag and drop. And then what devices? Since it's web-based, most devices with an internet connection can access. It's also available on iPad and different tablets too. All right, so the final program we're going to look at is called Minecraft for Education. It is a game-based learning platform that builds STEM skills, unleashes creativity, engages students in collaboration and problem solving. To be honest, I remember Minecraft from when I was teaching about 5 years ago. I was teaching, I think it was my math 10 class, my grade 10 class. And they were doing a project, and my students had an opportunity to kind of create their project however they wanted based on what I had asked them. They were answering this one question and they had to develop it however they wanted. They could have created a poster, a PowerPoint slide. They could do kind of whatever they wanted to present their knowledge to me. And one kid built a whole like city in Minecraft, and I was quite shocked with the amount of time and effort that he put into it. So it's pretty cool. So when I think of Minecraft, that's what I think of. But from the research that we've done, there's a lot more going on with Minecraft, especially their whole Minecraft for education piece. So Emily, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this?
Naomi, I just want to say that is really cool that your student did that.
Yeah, I was quite impressed. I
I
was
would
like, how many
too.
hours did this take you? He's like 50. I was like, 50 hours. It's like, wow, that's dedication.
But that just shows you about the program and how engaging it really is for students.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Minecraft is a Microsoft program. It is compatible on Windows, Mac, and iPad, but it does not support a Chromebook. So that's very important to remember. As an educator, you can create a class and assign coding lessons to your students. Your students are able to solve coding challenges through a problem given. Minecraft for Education offers special features designed for educational use, including assessment tools, and they have a multiplayer section that allows learners to work together in an immersive game environment. So your students can actually work together. Minecraft for Education is now available from now until June 30th for all educators and learners who have a valid Office 365 education account as a free download. So I'll definitely be checking that out.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And wasn't this something that your principal had shared with you?
Actually, my school division sent
The
out a
school
link
division.
saying that it's now free for until June for everybody who has an Office 365 account.
Awesome. So I know some school divisions. So in Canada, especially in Saskatchewan, they call it school divisions. In America, lots of districts will call it school districts. So just so people know the language. But with that, I know some folks listening right now might be G Suite for Education, right? So they're more Google based, whereas your school division, or as we say in America, school district, is more the Office 365. So just so people know the differences between those two pieces. So one's kind of Microsoft and one is more Google. So let's dive into just a couple final details here. So again, who is the program good for? Well, honestly, this is a great program for K through 12 and even higher education. As far as coding language and programming language goes, not all of, so with Minecraft, as I kind of explained, my student wasn't coding when he had created his little city. He was just doing a bunch of building online. So not all of it is coding challenges and games for learning. Their code builder program is a feature that allows students to learn coding in Minecraft using tools that we've already talked about, such as code.org, Tinker, and then two other ones, Scratch and Microsoft MakeCode. Students can also use blocks of code or JavaScript to build and create in Minecraft. So there's a coding piece to Minecraft for education. And then devices that are compatible, Windows, Mac, and iPads, but it does not support Chromebooks.
So we just shared 4 different programs with you. Which one are you most interested in? Let us know. Remember, if you have any questions, we will share our email addresses once again and are happy to help you where we can.
Right, so with these programs here, we had 2 that were pretty much free from the get-go, code.org, Swift Playgrounds, and then Tinker and Minecraft, there is a purchasing fee, but depending on what is happening in your world right now, if you are at a school that's closed, Tinker does give you the option for that free premium account. And then Minecraft, if you are an Office 365 district and you have that information, then you can jump in and access that program. So we wanted to share a bunch of different programs for you. We also want to give you a couple honorable mentions because you might be like, hey, there's this really great program called Scratch. We know there's a ton of great programs out there. We just didn't want to spend an hour just going over all the different types of programs. We want to keep this probably not that short, actually, but somewhat short and sweet. My sister and I like to talk. Sometimes I'd like
No.
to talk fast too, but I'm trying to slow down my words. So a couple honorable mentions. We're just going to list them off here for you. Scratch and Scratch Junior. There's Code Academy, Code Wars, Code Monster, Khan Academy, Codable, and so many more out there. These are just a few that we are going to highlight. So Thank you for joining us today, folks. Thank you for staying with us. I had a lot of fun building this webinar out with my sister, getting a chance to have some conversations with her about coding, how she's doing it, what it looks like, and just some benefits that she's seeing from her students. So I'm going to pass it over, Emily, to you just for one last say of what you need to say at the end and just to kind of wrap it all up.
Yeah, thank you, Naomi, for having me. It's been a blast joining you today. Quickly, I just want to say that you don't have to be an expert to teach coding. I definitely am not. I learn with my students. I think it's very important that our students develop skills from coding, and these skills will help them be successful in the world we live in today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally key right there. So thank you to everyone who joined us. We appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about web-based programs and apps to support coding. If you have any questions, our contact information is right there on the screen. Please feel free to reach out. We hope you have a great day and stay tuned. We have a couple more coding webinars coming up in the future. Thank you very much.